The alarm bells are now officially going off in America. $3.3 trillion added to the tab as a result of the big, beautiful bill as the debt continues to climb out of control. And now we're at a point of basically no return with the fiat currency. Is this breaking point for the US dollar? The debt barrels out to $37 trillion. And we're also seeing on top of that a 3.3 trillion adding to the federal deficit. The American debt to GDP ratio isn't looking much better. We're seeing that compared to its 08 period of being in the 60s or 70s, we're now at the point of 120. And when we look back in history at countries like Italy, Germany, who suffered through the 2008 financial crisis, these numbers are on par for it. But when your main reserve holding country is doing it, it's now a massive alarm bell, and the reserve currency is now losing control. Just to make it clear, this isn't a political thing or anything against Trump. This is just a fact that the currency is now at failing point. If we look at it based on Democrats and Republicans, the number goes up either way. It doesn't matter which way you put it, Republican or Democrat. The fact is we've now got a failing currency. The fact of the matter is, at the end of the day, fiat currencies have their cycles, and they go from around 30 to 80 years of where they basically function. And the issue with fiat currency is it's not backed by anything. What's the difference between fiat currency or the US dollar and monopoly money? The only difference is the trust of the actual people that have trust towards US dollar. But when that value falls to zero, suddenly that trust becomes worthless. And we can see that in history. There's been over 775 different fiat currencies over the past 1,000 years. And how many of them have survived? Zero. This is something that everybody needs to look at and understand how history works with these currencies. And I mean, I can give you hundreds of examples. We can look at the rise and fall of Rome, a massive empire, ancient Rome, and how they used to function. At the end of the day, what they discovered was that they basically functioned off these silver and gold coins. And what they'd do is they'd use that to fund their military, fund their wars, and use it as a medium of exchange. And what they used to do, they did a variation of printing. Instead of, printing and using the printing press like the US did, they did this thing called coin clipping. And what they'd do is they'd clip the gold and silver coins, the gold and silver content off the coins and replace it with copper and lead. And what you had is you had these coins that were still perceived to be the same value, but actually had more lead. And it caused inflation over time. We can see the numbers here. You can see that the debasement began at just a slight 5%, and it just went up and up over time. The French assignat is a really good example of another currency which collapsed. It used to be a currency from the French Revolution, and what it was used is it was backed by the abandoned fields or church fields, and that's what these notes represented. However, like everything else, as the currency expanded and the land no longer backed the currency, it didn't function anymore. And when you actually study history and understand that our currencies aren't functioning correctly, that's when you understand what the true solution is. What I'm pushing for in this channel is an actual solution, and I want people to get into real sound money. I'm talking about gold, silver, and Bitcoin. This is an opportunity in this reset to build true wealth. For younger people like me and other people, it's an opportunity to get on the front foot really early and get yourself into assets that work. They're outperforming stocks, they're outperforming the markets everywhere, they're outperforming the S&P 500 because there's a starving need for real money, and that's gold, silver, and Bitcoin. I'll explain how these are actual real money. So what makes sound money? You need three characteristics to have sound money. The first thing is a store of value. So does this thing actually hold its value in the moment and over time? So the reason why cash itself no longer holds its value is because we're printing so much of it. We're printing $1 trillion every 90 days, while gold and silver can only grow at such a rate because it takes time to mine it. While Bitcoin is completely scarce. There's only 21 million of it. So it's got that store of value element because they're scarce in nature. The second thing is medium of exchange. Can you exchange it between people? This is where money has been really good. And what money does is it's often backed by real sound money, gold and silver, and maybe even in the future, Bitcoin. That paper currency acts as an IOU to the gold and silver, and you could exchange, let's say, $100 to get 1 ounce of silver, or 1 ounce of gold, I should say. So gold and silver does have a history of acting like that, as we've seen throughout history, and hundreds of years it's worked correctly. And even Texas is starting to figure out that there's a problem right now, and they've decided to bring gold and silver back into legal tender under new law, because they understand that they've got a major issue with their US dollar as it continues to go down in value, and they need to start protecting themselves. This isn't some kind of small problem. This is something that people need to get ahead of in advance. I believe truly by getting into this is like the equivalent of getting into Facebook in 2005, or getting early in on Amazon or Tesla before it was around, because this is going to be massive when the currency's value continues to fall, and you want to protect yourself in real sound money. And the last thing, of course, is a unit of account. So when you do any form of calculations or accounting, can you work with these sound monies? And for me, why not? Why couldn't you do it in something like Bitcoin, gold, and silver, and actually be able to work your numbers in that instead of basically this monopoly money? The point that I'm making in this video is this is an opportunity to get yourself out of this false money, get ahead, study, and understand why we need real money. So me personally, the action I'm going to be taking, I'm going to be stacking as much silver, gold, and Bitcoin as I can to accelerate my wealth, and use this printing as an opportunity for them to work for me. Anytime I buy a bit of gold and silver and they continue to print, it just means my assets are going up in value. And truly, when you understand that, that's when you understand that's how true wealth is made. By getting ahead of people, understanding where the opportunities are, and taking advantage of their mistakes. In this channel, that's what I'm focusing on, getting people into sound money, accelerating wealth, and working on ourselves to be the best versions that we can, so we continue to build our stacks in gold, silver, and Bitcoin. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe if you want to see more of this. I'm sorry this is a negative video, putting the alarms on, but we have an opportunity here, and if we get in on this early, we can be very successful and do very well. Everybody, hope you have a great day. Look after yourselves and get into sound money.